had stopped where we're identifying some of the endocrine organs in the body. Now we're going to look at the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, and the pituitary gland. They are the three major endocrine organs in the brain. So let's knock out the pineal gland real quick. The pineal gland, as we had identified on the model, is the pink thing basically above the hypothalamus and the thalamus. It produces melatonin. Melatonin helps us to sleep. It regulates our sleep-wake cycle, which is called our circadian cycle. Melatonin comes from an amino acid called tryptophan that is eventually converted to melatonin in its chain reaction. That's purely biochemistry. But key thing is that melatonin helps you to sleep. It controls your sleep-wake cycle. The hypothalamus basically contains and produces regulatory hormones, either stimulatory or inhibitory hormones that act on the pituitary gland to produce its various hormones. And it also produces oxytocin and ADH. Now, the pituitary gland has a front part and a back part. The front part in some books is divided into two: the intermediate pituitary gland and then the anterior pituitary gland. The intermediate pituitary gland produces melanocyte stimulating hormone. This hormone goes to the skin and stimulates melanocytes to produce melanin. Melanin is what causes the pigmentation of our skin. Some people have produced less melanin than others, but we all have about the same number of melanocytes. The anterior pituitary produces a number of hormones, which we'll talk about, and I'll give you a simple story to remember what all these basically do. You have growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, prolactin, adrenocorticotrophic hormone, gonadotrophins, that is follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. And the posterior pituitary, it doesn't produce, interestingly, it doesn't produce anything. It stores oxytocin and ADH. Now, the posterior pituitary is also called the neurohypophysis. And the anterior pituitary is called the adenohypophysis. Adeno for glands, neuro for nervous system. Now, if you remember in your discussion on cavities of the body, you might remember that the posterior cavities contains your nervous system, and the anterior cavity contains the heart, the lungs, the intestines, which also contains your glands. Okay, so easy way to remember that posterior pituitary is called the neurohypophysis. Is think about the whole brain is in the posterior cavity of the body, neuro. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about what these hormones variously do. Okay. So we will be talking about Sammy, who happens to be a baby in her mother's uterus. Now, the mother is said to be 9 months pregnant. All of a sudden,